Ain't going back, not gonna buy into all that. Hey, hey, ain't gonna hide, gonna let all the fears slide. Got mother nature, it's on my side. Got a whole of the loving.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the new now. I'm here with a first-time guest, Ryder Lee of Raised by Giants. I was attracted to the name of his channel, which attracted me to a lot of the other information and work he's done. And it seems a man after my own heart. And he's a researcher, a discoverer of truth and all kinds of things esoteric. Ryder, hello and welcome to our chat.
Hello, and thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to the conversation. Always
Great.
fascinating.
Oh yeah, we're going to discuss invasive dark energies and let's say healing solutions, taking it from wherever, well, what would you think? Let's talk about invasive dark energies and get your definition and your take on this topic.
Well, I had Jerry Marzinski on my show, and Jerry is this is his book right here, An Amazing Journey into the Psychic Mind, Breaking the Spell of the Ivory Tower. He is a psychotherapist, and he's been working with mental patients in mental state hospitals and state prisons for over 35 years. And he discovered that what paranoid schizophrenia is that the hallucinations that they're actually experiencing are an actual demonic dark energy attachment, and they're influencing these people that have paranoid schizophrenia. And then I did another show with him with Lynn Monet and him, and she also worked in a psychiatric facility as a nurse, and she's able to see these entities. And she actually removed an entity off of a patient's back. And then I brought him on again with a gentleman named Patrick Dirk that pretty much had this same thing happen, but it was through illicit drug use and through methamphetamine. And he would be doing a lot of methamphetamine, and then he would have hallucinations. He would have experiences. He felt like that he was contacting God or people that he described or someone that he described as Jesus in front of him. And it's just really I really recommend this book by Jerry Marzinski. I actually read it when it came out in, I believe, 2019. I ordered it right when it came out, and it might have been 2018, but I read it several times. It's a very quick read. It's only like 143 pages or so, and I've read it 3 or 4 times now, and I've interviewed him several times now, and it's just really fascinating, his research. And he sees that these voices, they run patterns. It's always the same thing. It's always something very negative, like they're not getting something positive. They're not trying to better their life. It's always very invasive. It's always very dark, and it's always very negative, and they're trying to influence these people to also do very negative things. And yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just saying, yeah, we've had Jerry on our show 8 or 9 times, so our readers are very
Okay, good.
familiar with him. Yeah, we've done Mind Monsters. We interviewed someone, Frank, who had an entity which he invited in and couldn't get out. So I did several with him as well, and Jerry, and even Dr. Davis, who may join us today from FlorAlives. Him and I and Jerry and Sherry Sweeney from the That's a Lie program, who helped, I think, Jerry write that particular book, was also on the chat. So,
Yes.
I have seen, over the years, like interviewing Frank, who had an entity. It was very interesting talking with him because he would talk to his hand quite literally and say, would give him yes or no answers. And we had him on with Harold Kotz, who you and I discussed before we got on. And so he stopped doing interviews. It was funny, after Harold and myself and him talked, because Frank would give interviews about his monster, saying he wanted to get rid of, the monster and heal from it. And it came also from a lot of the drugs he did, as you had
Yes.
mentioned before. And when he was confronted and said, I would like to, and then he would also say, well, I can't give it up. And then he was asked about, are you keeping the monster simply because you're getting, publicity and awareness and a lot of attention focused on you? And he kind of freaked and then left at the time, which was very interesting. And, he was the only person we've interviewed, in the years we've done interviews, where every time we talked to him, we'd have a horrible connection on on our recording. It was like, it's like, is crystal clear? Occasionally someone would jump, but with him, it would be crazy, the interference. So, it seems to me from some of the experience and what you've mentioned, this is more than a hallucination, which is what, Jerry's saying, and more than something that's not real. And that if you can corroborate with all of the inmates and even a regular person. I mean, I myself hear those negative voices almost every day. Do something bad, you can't do it. Nobody wants to talk to you. You're going to give a bad interview. Those sorts of things. And I think at one level or another, in my opinion, everybody's kind of suffering at least the echoes of the negative interference that Jerry talks about.
Yeah, and that's the thing about this is like, well, if it's an entity and it's actually real, then why does it sound exactly like us? Right? Because I asked Jerry this question. I was like, do the voices sound different than your normal everyday voice? And
Mm,
he said, no, they don't. Only in a few cases that he's actually studied are the voices different than your actual regular voice. So then that comes into question, where are these things coming from? Is it just you? Have you opened up a portal in your brain through these illicit drug uses? I mean, I've talked about this several times on my show that, you know, 50% of the population is on some form of pharmaceutical medication in the United States.
for sure.
Can't tell you worldwide statistics, but I've looked it up before from a study that was done from 2014 to 2016 that stated that 48%, I just rounded up to 50 because I know it's over 50 by now. Since 2016, especially since 2020, it's just shot up through the roof. So from 2014 to 2016, a study was done that showed that 48% of the United States population was on some form of pharmaceutical drug. And then you look at the illicit drug user statistics, which is roughly around the exact same area. And then when you look at the illicit drug user statistics on how many of those illicit drug users have some form of mental illness, and 60% of illicit drug users have at least 1 to 2 mental illness, diagnosed mental illness. So what is causing this, right? Can you have a mental illness without any drug? Like it's almost shaping up to be that the drugs are what is causing the mental illness. It's not the mental illness that's causing the drugs, though. There was a Lynn Monet that I had on with Jerry was talking about how her daughter was complaining a lot about shoulder pain, and
Mm,
she'd never done any drugs or anything. And Lynn Monet later found out that she had an entity attachment on her back
mm.
that was trying to cause her pain so that she would go to the doctor and get put on some form of pain medication. So it kind of swings both ways, but it's interesting when you just look at the amount of people that are on illicit drugs, the amount of people that are on some form of pharmaceutical drugs, and then you correlate that with the mental illness, and the results are staggering.
It also depends, I would say, on what you categorize as a drug, right? Because if you include alcohol in that and white sugar, you might get closer to 100%, of the
Yes.
population in one way or the other that's, been infested in. I mean, I would say, to get back to your question, from some of the studies that I've done about why does it always sound like our voice? When they used to ask Japanese people like 50, 60 years ago where they thought, they didn't point to their head. They would point it to their center, their hara. They did thinking around their center, their second brain, their intuition, their will. And perhaps, if I want to get a bit esoteric, people have been tricked to believe that voice is them when it's not, right? Because, everything in schooling, like when you're a little, a friend of mine said, if you really loved your children, you would never send them to school, because nobody wants to sit for 12 years at a desk staring at a screen when they're a little boy or a little girl. You want to run out, you want to play, you want to enjoy, you want to see life, you want to adventure. No one goes, I can hardly wait to sit at a desk and, stare at an old person all day, spitting facts at me. And, and in some ways you get forced, I would say, into thinking, because that whole system is rote, repetition and regurgitation of facts, the schooling system as it's been for over 100 years these days. And, perhaps we're being trained or entrained or entrapped to get lost between our ears. And I would say maybe that's where the ego echo chamber of the monsters, reflects back towards us. And, perhaps that is a way to answer that question of, is it us or is it not us? Maybe it's not us, but we're tricked into thinking it's us. And then we get trapped into the BS that gets passed along through the cell phones, through the TV, through the media, through the screen. And not so many people ask, I see people walking, I'm in Japan all the time, definitely 90% of ladies and 70% of men like this. And I don't feel anyone's asking, like, where's this information coming from? That it says this is true, it says that's not true, it says this is true. And like, who is digging to the bottom of like where and who and why, all of these facts are coming at you? It's a very interesting, proposition to look at, these dark energies and how maybe they're not happily, reflecting the life you would like to live and what you can do about it.
Well, the Bible says that the temples of God are in front of your ears and behind your eyes.
Right.
Right here. Right. Now, what you're talking about with schooling, it's really interesting how really nothing has changed in our reality. We're still doing the exact same things that we've been doing for decades, especially when it revolves around schooling, 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, and 2-month break. I mean, some countries do 3 months on, 3 months off, and stuff like that. But it's been so installed into the population that you have to go to school for pretty much for 12 years, right?
Yeah.
When you can literally you can graduate from high school when you're like 13 years old if you do homeschooling.
Easy
right?
peasy. Yeah.
And that's the issue, and that's the problem that we're finding, is that we're not willing to change or evolve our society in any capacity. Like, we want to keep things the same, because not only has it been installed in us that we have to go to school for 12 years of our life, and those are the most important years of our life. And I hated school when I was growing up. Like, I did not like to go to school. I thought it was nonsense. Thought it was complete and total waste of time. And so what they do is they get you stuck in this mind frame, and this constant back and forth. And what's happened is that the parents have gotten so used to their kids being at school, so then they can have time to themselves and work and do jobs. So that's the reason that they don't want to homeschool people. But I think if we change the system, and because you could literally, I just seen an article the other day that a gentleman from the United States, a young kid, got all of his high school stuff done at 13 years old. He graduated from high school and he was already enrolled in college at 13 years old. Like, why are we not doing that? And then as soon as you get out of high school, you're automatically pushed directly into college. Those are your most fruitful years. That's when you need to get out and experience life and experience reality and make mistakes, and then figure out what you want to do later on in your life. We have this screwed up mentality that we need to have everything figured out right now, when most people don't have anything really figured out until they're in their mid-30s. That's just the reality of it. But see, people, when they're younger, they see all these successful people later on, and they think that they need to be successful right now, when that's not really ever the case. Like, people really aren't successful in the thing that they really want to do until they're in their mid-30s. That's just the reality of it. So all these kids and all these people that are growing up thinking that they got to be doing something right now, and then they get put into that situation, and then they figure out that they don't like it, but they're stuck because they have all this debt, they have all this money and all this time and energy tied up into the thing that they didn't even want to do in the first place. So we really have to change the structure of the way that we even really do schooling. Like, growing up, I was told by my teachers, oh, you can't use a calculator because you're never going to have a calculator all the times in your pocket. Well, bullshit. We got a phone now. There's a calculator with us all the time, 24/7. These people, they didn't have the vision of where things were actually progressing and where things were going. And now we live in an age of the internet, where you can just look whatever thing that you want up on the internet, and you can figure out how to do it 10 times better than what anybody could teach you in school or in college. right? You can figure out how to fix your car by looking it up on YouTube. It's unbelievable that, and we're not progressing with the times. We're trying to salvage a broken system that never really worked to begin with.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I would say as well, school doesn't teach you how to be alive. It just teaches you how to get a job. At best, that's what it used to do anyways, how to become an accountant or a lawyer or a doctor or an engineer. And it never really, shared the most important part, something that, I like to examine and discuss with people, like yourself is like, what is imagination? Where does it come from? What can you imagine? If you can only imagine how to work, or maybe that you're going to get married and you're going to buy a house and then you're going to make 3 children, then you're going to retire at 55 and you'll have enough money to go sit on the beach finally, and not have to run around in circles, paying the bills, then that's what you're going to bring to yourself. Because I feel, as creative beings, we can imagine anything. We can make anything real. I mean, look at your shirt, look at my background. You got the flower of life over there, it's in death behind your right shoulder. It's obvious that we're looking at a bigger picture through our imagination and what we want to bring to the world. And a lot of people just don't either have the time or the inclination or the desire, maybe not even the energy to get there, from bad food, let's say too much radiation. They're too tired from having to work. Used to be one man working, keeping the family, in the bread and pickles and the house. And now, both parents, like as you said, have to work just to barely pay the bills, and the kids are left to be babysat by the state or the school, and nobody's questioning, who is deciding what they're learning. Why are they deciding what they're learning? I mean, even here in Asia, they don't have the breaks in the school year that they have in North America. It's even worse here. They get a month off, and every day they have to do homework still. Like I was shocked. Like even when they're on their holidays in the spring, they still have to go to school every day, right? For swimming class, or for, and they have to report every single day what they're doing. So basically it's 365, 24 hours a day. They're inculcated into the system in this part of the world, which is fascinating and horrible, to be honest.
Well, I mean, there's pros and cons to each one of those. I think sometimes that creates discipline within a culture as
Sure.
well, to always be doing something like that. Like I grew up doing a lot of different things, and it kept me really busy. And I think that does teach discipline. I think martial arts teaches discipline. I did martial arts since I was 4 years old up until I was 15. I did taekwondo and karate, and I was a boxer. So that taught me a lot of discipline from a very young age. I think that I would recommend anybody that has a child, whenever they hit 4 years old, to enroll them in some form of martial arts class, because that really, teaches, meditative states. And, you're talking about, imagination, and people, they they think that whenever you're meditating, like, you have to just be like laying down, the
Mhm.
lights have to be completely off, you have to, everything has to be quiet. That's not true. That's a false version of meditation. Like, you can be doing meditation while you're doing anything. You can be doing
Mhm.
meditation while you're washing the dishes. You can be doing meditation while you're doing art. You can be doing meditation while you're taking a shower. It's anything that, or when you're working out. Some people use that form of going to the gym as their form of meditation. And I think that is a very important thing to give to children whenever they're really young, because it teaches them discipline. It teaches them how to be still. It teaches them respect. It teaches them to, always, uh, respect the person that's in charge. You can disagree with the person. You can, be whatever, but you still have to respect where they're coming from. And that's where a lot of that plays a big role in our culture. And I think martial arts is a fantastic way to do that. And I and the imagination too, the imagination aspect, because that's a really interesting aspect of this, because imagination is very important to us. And I think that our imagination has been hijacked from us in a bunch of different ways.
Mm.
Because it seems like that a lot of things are just a regurgitation of much older, much previous things. And we see this within the mainstream as well. Like, in the movie industry in Hollywood. Like, they're not really making original content. They're just regurgitating old content. They're making sequels to older content. They're remaking older content. They're remaking Roadhouse right now. They're just recycling old things, and it's not giving the population the imagination to create something new and exciting. But then when you get into it, you're like, okay, well, is there really anything new? Like that age old saying, is there really anything? There's nothing new under the sun. You know, is it just a copy of something that came previously before, and then we are just putting our spin on it? I mean, I'm guilty of that in some aspects, right? Like I use other people's information as inspiration to formulate my own thoughts and my own ideas. And if it wouldn't have been for movies and TV shows, I wouldn't have any idea how to make a movie. Right? I wouldn't have any idea how to edit or put
Hmm.
together a full length documentary that I've done. JFKX Solving the Crime of the Century, really quick plug on Amazon Prime. So did that create the opportunity for me to know how to do something by observing something? Because I think that's the way that a lot of people work, is that when they're shown something, whenever they see something, they can then duplicate it in the best way that they could possibly do it. But if I would never have seen a movie or a TV show or any of these other directors, or see how things are edited, would I have any idea what I'm doing? Right.
It's interesting. That was the paper I did as well in high school, the JFK assassination. It's funny, that you brought that up, like why and when and how in solving that mystery. I agree with you. It's really great to have the input of, TV and movies, especially in the modern age, to get a bit of a feedback on how people interact with each other. On the other hand, when I used to see Caddyshack and Animal House and all the crazy sexy comedies, like I'm a little older than you of the 70s and 80s, and then it took me years to figure out that a relationship between a man and woman is not what they show you in the movies, right? It's not a romantic comedy. Ladies, I saw a good quote in I forget from where, maybe it was a book or TV. A lady's not a cookie jar, or a nice pair of whatevers. The relationship that can develop between a man and a woman. I mean, if you study martial arts, and I've also done kickboxing and kung fu for years, it's interesting how people like us do get attracted towards that sort of a discipline. And I found it to be, like you, one of the best things I ever did in my life, as far as, a meditation. You get too tired to think, and then, that's perhaps a meditation. Other things start to percolate, gestate. You can walk, you can garden, like you said, you can spin dance, you can do anything, as long as you give yourself a chance maybe to go beyond what's being told to you. And what is meditation, right? What is imagination? But, what I'm really getting at is all of the things in modern society can be good. It's kind of like everything can be good, like a little bit, but if you get too much oxygen will kill you, right?
Yes.
Too much sexy stuff will drain you and you'll be exhausted, but a little bit of all of that can be beneficial. But so how do you find a balance, right? Where do you get that quiet time in modern society? Where do you take, like we're talking about invasive dark energies and maybe imagination, like, so how do you get from, if you are hearing those voices, let's say, and again, I'm going to say that everybody does a little bit, even if it's you're not good enough, you can't do it, you're going to have a horrible day, you need to make more money. I mean, everyone's got negative thoughts that come to them probably every day about one thing or another. You're not good enough, you're too tall, you're too short, too fat, you're too skinny, etc. Getting too old, you're too young. Like, where do those come from? And even if you don't want to sit and discuss where they come from, what can you do when you're sitting, in a moment and you want to make a better life by your own desires to make a better life? Not that someone's telling you how you should live, but let's say you make a choice that you want to change something. You want to change your health, you want to change your monetary situation, you want to change your consciousness, you want to change your relationships, you want to change your relationship with your children, whatever, or where you're living. You mentioned a friend of yours may want to move. It's like, so if you want to make a physical or an emotional or an energetic transformation or change, how do you, go about accomplishing that in the best way possible? Knowing you're being informed, let's say, by the "you can't do it" voice that we all probably have, in one way or another.
I personally believe that it just takes time. It takes time, repetition,
Hmm.
persistence, consistency, and just doing it over and over again and not giving up. Right? Because we have this idea as a society and as a culture is we want instant gratification.
Mm.
We want something to be now and right now. And we see a lot of that echoed through mainstream
Mm.
society now. We have HBO Max on television. We got Netflix. We don't have to really go to the movie theater anymore. We can get coffee delivered directly to our house, at least in the United States. And we can get a package delivered the next day and it'll be here, Amazon Prime. So we've been cultivated into this instant gratification process. And I think that we just need to take a step back and realize that everything just doesn't happen all at one time. You just can't think, oh well, if I do this one thing, then that's going to change everything. No, if you want to make a drastic change in your life, you have to change everything about your life. It's not just one thing that's not
No,
working.
not
If
one
your
thing.
life's if your
Yeah,
life's really
yeah.
that bad, it's not just one thing. It's multiple things. So
Mm.
I think that when people they get to that point and they want to change, they think, well, if I just change this thing and I don't do that, then that's going to fix everything else. And then whenever they change that one thing and it doesn't fix everything, then they fall right back into the
Mm.
thing that they changed to begin with, right? When they really need to just change everything about their life and then keep doing it. And eventually you'll see the fruits of that labor. I mean, when I first started my show, I was very nervous. Like I could, it was
Yeah.
weird. I wasn't on camera a lot. I was seeing myself. I didn't want to listen back to myself. I thought I sounded weird when I listened to myself talk.
Mm.
But the more that I did it, the more confidence that I built and the more I was able to project my thoughts and my ideas better to whoever it was that I was talking to. And that's just through practice and repetition. But whenever it comes to these dark energies or these dark voices or these negative thought forms, for me is best just to say that's not true, right?
Mm.
And say it out loud too, because the universe hears you when you say things out loud. People tend to use their inner voice, especially when they're praying or they're doing affirmations or something like that. No, you need to be saying that stuff out loud, dude.
Mm.
Say that out loud. Say I'm the best. Say you have the number one podcast or whatever it is that you're doing. That's you need to be saying that stuff out loud every single day. And when you get an intrusive thought like that, like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do that, or you're overthinking something, you just say, that's not true. You're wrong.
Mm.
Instantly flips it. It's like flipping a coin over. And you start to switch that negative thought form into a positive thought form. And you just don't do it one time, right?
Yeah.
That's another issue. Like it's not a one-time
No.
fixed thing. Like you got to keep doing it. You keep doing the exact same thing. And also like visualization, I found that
Mm.
has really helped with me as well during like meditation. Like you just if you're having like something that keeps popping up in your mind that you just can't seem to really get over, this is just what I personally do. This doesn't have to work for everyone, and you don't have to do it the exact same way that I'm explaining it. It's just what's worked for me and what's best for me, right? If you got something from your past that is really, bugging you a lot and is kind of stressing you out, it's kind of that weight on your shoulders. You just visualize that thought or that memory and you just cut ties with that energy. You just cut ties with that memory, that negative aspect of whatever it was that you did in the past. The past is the past. Like those people probably don't even remember that was so many years ago. Doesn't even matter anymore, right? So why are you still holding on to it? And what I do is I would just visualize an energy cord in my head attached to me and then attached to that thought or attached to that idea or that negative emotion or that negative thought form. Then I would take the biggest pair of shears that I can possibly imagine, and then I would just cut that energy cord, and then I would release it, and I'd be like, "Hey, you know, and I would think it too, because thinking it and sending it love helps it heal as well. This might sound super woo woo to people, but
No,
it's
no,
just
no.
just
I
a
think
process that I've gone through, and it's really, really helped me. And I've done that several times for the same thought, for the same negative thought,
mm,
for the same negative energy, that same you could even call it a trauma, right?
mhm,
If you want to get that deep into it, it could possibly,
definitely.
be a traumatic event. And there's several ways that you can do that as well. It doesn't have to be the energy cord with the big giant shears. That's just the easiest way that I found to do it. It can be that thought and that energy, or that negative thought form, or the trauma or whatever, is a rock, and it's in your hand. You see it, and you're on top of a giant mountain, and you just toss the rock down the hill, and then you think it. You're like, thanks for, you know, teaching me what I needed to know. You're no longer needed, something to the effect of that. And then you let it go. Or it could be that you have that negative thought or that negative energy attachment, and you got it tied up to a dock, and that thing is on a boat, and then you undo that tow line, and then you just watch the energy and the thought sail off down into the sunset in the water on the river. There's several ways that you can do it, but that's just a few examples.
No, it's beautiful. I think you've just described a lot of what I mean by imagination and what people can use. You take something, you make it visual. One of the oldest sayings, I don't know whether it was Mark Twain or Einstein, is that, you can't fix a problem in the same energy that made the problem. So by taking your problem outside of your thought, 'cause a lot of people get caught in thought loops, right? I'm bad, I'm good, I'm bad, I'm good. But so like I do the same thing. It feels like a core or a tie, and I'll just rip it, or that voice will come. I'll tell it to F off if because if it's really bothering me, like, get away, or you can't do it. I go, maybe you can't do it, but I'll go do it anyways, right? Because if you disassociate yourself from that voice and you realize it's not you. Sherry Sweeney, who you mentioned, that's a lie. That's true. She did That's a Lie programmer, Jerry Marzinski. We've chatted a few
Yes.
times. And so you've given a way to the viewers that may, well, how can I do this, right? It's not really rocket science, right? If it's not working for you, figure out how to stop that. I mean, there's another old Japanese saying that says, if you're talking about not being able to do it, you're not doing it. It's like really direct, right? And so it's, so if you need to do something, you just go figure out how to do it. If you're telling people why you can't, or why it's hard, like why you can't change your relationship, why you can't change a habit, why you can't change a job, why you can't change your physical location, whatever, you're not actually doing it. You're just talking about not being able to do it. And right in there is your problem, right? Why you're stuck, because you're not looking at how to do it. And as you've mentioned, you can't change one thing. If you want to stop, let's say, drinking too much, you can't be hanging out with your drinking buddies and, still going to the pub on the weekends. And then maybe the job that's stressing you, that's making you want to drink in the first place, you have to change everything. And maybe, and no one said it's going to be easy. And I mean, I don't know about you, but I've been through some challenges with friends, with relationships, with jobs, with cohorts, my relationship with food, alcohol, whatever, and all of it had to be challenged and thrown over my shoulder in the ways that you mentioned, because I've done a lot of those visualizations too, to get to where I am. Is it easy? No, every day I'm challenged, right? Every day, like you said, I don't know about you, but I've done a couple hundred. We've done almost a similar amount of videos. I've noticed. I was looking at your channel and mine, and every day I hear the same thing you hear. You can't do it. You can't talk. You're horrible. You don't. Nobody wants to listen to you, and you just go, whatever. I'm just gonna go have some fun, see what happens, and I figure that's one of the best ways to change is you just do it and see what happens and enjoy yourself, even if it's hard.
Yeah, and doing the opposite of whatever this voice is
Mm,
telling you, because you're realizing that it's not you, it's a harmful voice, it's a negative voice. So in order to flip that negative voice into something positive, like you just don't back down from it.
mm,
You just keep strong, you keep doing what you're doing, and eventually it's going to pay off through your persistence and your consistency. I mean, that's the way that I found that it works through me personally. Now, I'm not saying that that's going to work for everyone, just like I'm mentioning with that visualization technique. My way of doing something might not be the same way that works for somebody else. I'm just talking about my personal experience and how I got over a lot of the things that I was struggling with from my past. And that has been the most helpful thing. And I think that that's an important thing to talk to people about, is because they always want to know, well, how did you do that?
mm.
And that's an important topic that we're talking about today, is, we and I just explained how I did it. And a lot of people, they'll just say, "Oh, well, I healed myself. Everything's okay. It's all done," and they don't give you an explanation on how they did it. And and I just did, and you explained that you did something very similar. So, not saying that it's going to work, but you got to keep doing it all the time. Like I probably did that visualization exercise on one thing that I was struggling with for years, like almost every day. Because when I would lay down and meditate, and how you know something is an issue or a problem is whenever you're meditating and it's the first thing that pops into your head.
Yeah. I mean,
You have to work through that first layer of all that nonsense. And
yep.
then once you work through those intrusive thoughts of your past, then you can get into the deeper layers of meditation.
I think that's what most people have missed, I would say, myself included, is when you walk into a life that's not working, you kind of have to walk back towards yourself if you want to make a better life and to take responsibility. That's something we haven't really touched base upon yet, but to take responsibility for all the bad things in your life, right? For everything that's not the way you would like it to be. Not someone telling you it should be this way or it shouldn't be this way, but when you're sitting and meditating, alone in a room or you're taking that walk in the mountains, whatever, and you're deciding something sucks, in your life or is no good or needs to be changed, as soon as you start blaming or pointing fingers, right away you've lost the game. I would say, because if it's someone else's fault, you need someone else to heal you. You need someone else to help you. You need someone else to change you. You need someone else to tell you it's okay. If you're looking for permission or good boy or good girl or whatever. But if you sit there and go, ha, ho, 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 I made this, I created this, and even if it doesn't look like you did, it's like why am I always being treated poor in relationships, or why am I always low on money? Why is my health bad even though I'm exercising and eating what is considered well? And instead of saying, well, it's not my fault, you find out how it is your fault, then you can find out how you can change it. And it's interesting how we brought this conversation that could go very deep on invasive dark energies. We could talk about Waitico or aliens or mind monsters or the flyers that the Toltecs talk about, Carlos Castaneda, but instead we've taken it down to a very useful level, which is what I think men are supposed to do. Like men like you, men like me, we take very complicated problems and make them simple for people. That's what real masculine energy can be about. I've discovered in that you say, well, sure, this is hard. Your whole life has been horrible for whatever reason, but all you've got to do, like I said, is sit there and decide you can do it. Cut the cords, through a rock, whatever it is. Doesn't matter where these energies come from. You don't have to agree that they're aliens, or you don't have to agree that they're, demons from the Bible or whatever. You can just see for yourself that something's happening you don't like, and then you can take the responsibility of changing it. And it's a very simple way to move yourself away from these invasive dark energies. We'll take it full circle in the topic. And, since we wanted to talk about solutions, and, I'm pleasantly surprised, Ryder, by the way, in this conversation. I did not expect it to go the way it's gone. I did not expect, such simple, easy to access information being shared by you, since this is our first conversation or a chat. And it's amazing what happens when you follow your guts. Because I reached out to Ryder and I said, I want to talk to this fellow. I don't know why. I just have a feeling, I'm going back to imagination and intuition. And then suddenly him and I are sharing something that I've shared with my viewers many times, but never quite so simple in this way, which I feel it will be very useful and helpful for anybody to watches this video.
Yeah, anybody that I have seen that is that's healed themselves, that's put in the work and has done this spiritual healing on themselves, have all come to the conclusion that everything that has happened to them has been their fault.
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and they've been
Yeah.
able to take responsibility from
That's,
that
yeah.
and then
Yeah.
heal from it. That's how you figure out who is the real people and who is not the real people.
Yeah, 100%. It's all your fault. You've made the mistake, you've muffed up, you've effed up. And, as soon as you're blaming someone, you've lost the game, because right away you're saying the power is not in your hands. And then what are you going to do? You're waiting for daddy to come give you your allowance, or mommy to say you're loved, or, the lady to say you're sexy, or the man to say you're beautiful. And, you've lost the independent court of freedom, which I feel is everyone's birthright. And one thing I want to say, since, you've got the skull over your right shoulder there, is anybody that has a challenge and can't do it and thinks it's too hard, think about your death. You're not here forever. You only have a limit. If you live for 120 years, it's not that long. It really isn't. If you live for 200 years, it's not that long. So if there's time to change something, there's only one time, and that's now, because one day you won't be here. And I would say, the most important thing is to find, your true path of heart, your happiness, what you would like to do, not in a woo sense, but whatever gives you, your own sense of satisfaction, happiness, and accomplishments is what you need to figure out for yourself, because no one can do it for you.
That's right. And then it gets even more nefarious too whenever you bring in extraterrestrials into the equation, and these extraterrestrial saviors, and these people looking outside of themselves because they haven't done the work to actually heal themselves spiritually. So then they constantly keep looking outside of themselves, and the first version of that is God, right? And then God has now been replaced by extraterrestrials, and extraterrestrials and aliens have become the new God, which we can talk about in a later show, in
I
a
would love to,
different show,
yeah.
because that would be a very interesting topic. But that's really what it's evolved into is, extraterrestrials have this advanced technology. They're our creators. They, created us, they evolved us, and then whenever they come back, they're going to share their advanced technology with us, and like all this stuff. It's another savior complex. It's another thing to look outside of yourself for the answers. And I'm going to wrap this back around to the very beginning. Temple of God is in front of your ears and behind your eyes. There is no savior. There are no aliens. There isn't anybody outside of yourself. God is within you.
I hear you. I mean, what you see in the TV and the screen is not in the TV and your screen, it's your projection. So I would say whatever is going on in your head, it's maybe just an area for you to imagine, to envision, to use, so don't let it use you. You should use it, and, get to your guts, get to your intuition. We went back to the drugs, and, I strongly feel from what I've heard as well, we're past so much sugar along when we're young, and it messes up your guts and your biome. And, then a lot of people have candida. I heard 80% of the world, has some sort of, sugar addiction. I'll call it sugar thrombosis. And, maybe, going back to, when we were born, maybe that's why it gets passed along to you by the nefarious powers that be, because if you get addicted to something like sugar, and right away, that's kind of a parasite. And if that voice that's a negative aspect of things could be considered a parasite, again, we're getting a little bit off topic, and I would love to continue on with this because I know we're running out of time here in our chat today. But extraterrestrials, aliens, and the parasites that get in between your two ears would be a good topic for next time. But what I'm basically saying for everyone is you can do it. Let's stay on topic. And if you have some invasive dark energies, maybe getting better health is what I was getting at there. Maybe try to decrease your sugar intake, eat healthy, move away from the processed foods. That could be something if someone's sitting here and going, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to get to where, Ryder is, or what Lorenzo's talked about, or some of these other people. Maybe a good first step, and I had to go through that one, is just, better dietary habits and more exercise, and see where that takes you over 6 months. And I can almost guarantee if you do that, other ideas will come to you.
I agree 100%. And that's a big part of it too, is just getting up and doing something, and not dwelling on the things that you don't have or the things that you can't do. Like, you just get up and do it. You get up and you go to the gym. I go to the gym every day, and that's an important step. And I try and eat healthy as well, because what you put in your body is, that whole saying of, you are what you eat. So if you're not eating healthy, then you're not going to be healthy.
Yeah, I know. I know it's interesting, and if you're taking in emotional garbage, you're not going to be emotionally healthy. And if you're taking in other
Exactly.
people's baggage about life, schooling or bad ideas, you are what you eat, but also not just the physical things of what you eat, the energy you eat, the emotions you eat, the belief systems you eat, the
Mm.
religions you eat, the gods you eat, whatever you take into your system, if it's not loving, happy, healthy, and freeing or freedom based, it's usually the opposite. And you shouldn't be surprised, like you said, when you find yourself somewhere that you're not happy, And as Ryder said, and it's a beautiful way to put it, every intelligent being I've ever come across in my life who's helped himself to a better place has taken full, more than 100%, 200%
Yeah.
responsibility for everything, even if they're not aware of why they have a problem. They're going, well, I have this horrible problem. Something happened when doesn't matter. It's my responsibility. Let's see what I can do about it. And guaranteed, in my opinion, you'll find a way to get out of it because you've taken responsibility for it.
That is the spiritual awakening that everyone talks about.
I would agree.
It's
Yeah,
not
it's so simple, huh?
this amazing
Yeah.
thing being sucked up into the fifth dimension or
No.
whatever. It's a revelation. That's the
Yeah.
spiritual awakening. You just
Yeah.
described it. That's what it
Yeah.
is taking full
Yeah.
responsibility for everything that you've done in your life. It's no one else's fault. It was no one else's problem. It
Yeah.
was all you. And that is the revelation that propels people to make better changes in their life.
I would agree. Okay, Ryder. Well, I'm delighted we had this conversation. Maybe we can leave it there. It seems we've come full circle from the beginning. Thank you so much for being here, Ryder, Raised by Giants. I'll leave a link to his YouTube channel and his Rofkin, I believe. You also have something going on there, I believe it's. And if you have any other things you want to share with me, once we get off, send me some emails. I'll leave that below. And hoping we'll get on again and we can talk about extraterrestrials and other ways that we can heal. And I'd be delighted to talk with many of the other guests you've had on as well. So if anything comes up where you feel, we'd have a good 3-way or 4-way, don't be shy. I'm happy now that we started a relationship to continue it on and to continue to share wonderful ways people can help themselves.
Thanks so much, my friend. I really appreciate your time this evening. It was a wonderful conversation, and I hope everyone enjoyed it.
Me too. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks again, Ryder. Bye for now, everyone. I love you all very much. Any questions or suggestions or any ideas, leave them below and I'll pass them along. And we hope to see you again very soon.
Can't make me lie to my heart. No one tells me where I should start. Freedom first is what I say. Nothing now gonna get in my way.